Good morning and welcome to another edition of Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. This is a quick addendum to my update for November. Talked a little bit about some of the models I got going on. Don't know if I talked about everything, but today got a package in the mail and it's time for the big reveal. Dun dun dun! Amphibious Weasel by Monogram. This kit was first molded in, I believe, 1966. That's what they said it back then, 1966. It's a really old kit. Found it on eBay. And the reason I even looked it up to begin with is this was kind of one of the things that got me building armor models to begin with. A friend of mine, the one that got me hooked on to Monogram models back in junior high, back in the mid-70s, he had a part of one of these, and you know, I just thought it was really cool, and I never saw it through all the years, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna look it up, and sure enough, this is one of the old mid-70s versions. It shows a copyright date of 66 and 72, but I don't know if this one was actually molded in 72 or packaged or whatever. But this is it. Monogram Amphibious Weasel. This is going to be one of my what I like to refer to as nostalgia builds. I did the Monogram Screaming Mimi that was in the original white box. I did the Panzer IV-H last year in the new Rebox that you can buy at Hobby Lobby or wherever. I did the 1/25th scale Tamiya Tiger 1. Those were all nostalgia builds, all stuff that either I built back then, or in the case of this one, I always wanted. And it is a super simple, primitive kit compared to nowadays, but we'll just kind of crack open the box here and look at it real quick. This is a good old, man, this is just like flashbacks, this box style. The instructions. Let me set the box kind of aside there. Here's the instructions. The box was sealed when I got it, and it looked like factory sealed the way it was sealed. I don't think it was resealed by the seller. She has a number of old kits on eBay, and this was one I wanted. And she said they were all factory sealed, some that her grandfather had, and I don't know if he died or if he just would, you know, wanted them to be sold. So I took advantage of it, but this is the instructions for it. So let's take a look at what's inside the instructions. All right. So again, copyright 1966, 1972. Monogram Models, Incorporated, Morton Grove, Illinois. Kit number 8212. Nice illustration on the front, and if anybody is familiar with Shepard Payne's modeling style, you can tell right off that this artwork was inspired by his the kit he built for him. Here's the instructions. Very simple but awesome. All this shading and cross hatching in the illustrations. It's got 12 steps and a big blow up, and it labels what every one of the parts are, what it's called. You got a left pivot arm, right pivot arm, right rudder, left rudder, the whole thing. Again, it's really basic on the back. Oh, I'm sorry, it has 14 steps, the last step being putting the driver in the seat and gluing on the antenna. And it shows an illustration. It does come with figures. Shows a little illustration here of the different figures where you can put them. This says to paint it and gives you the color call outs. You know, you got black, no brand name or anything, black rims of driver, idler, guide, and bogey wheels, tiller bar, blackout light, instrument. You know, it just lists what you're supposed to paint those colors. And since it tells you what it is, you can look on here and say, oh, that is a capstan or whatever. So that's kind of cool. Decal placement, and there you have it. That's the instructions for it. Nice and weathered on top, kind of yellowed. And what I really dig about these old kits and what I liked about him as a kid was the tips on building dioramas. Diorama built by Shepard Payne. In this case, and I had read somewhere that part of the reason he did this is because one of the really ultra weak points, I mean there's some weak points on this kit obviously because it's so old, but one of the really weak areas of this kit is the running gear, traction running gear. So what does he do? He puts it in a base where it's like coming out of the water onto a shoreline. So the entire running gear is either covered by foliage or sunk underneath the water. Talks about, you know, planning and building the diorama, added equipment, weathering, converting and painting figures, and then final assembly. This is kind of more of a general deal. Some of the other ones he did, especially like on some of the bigger kits, he would actually talk about modifications made to a specific vehicle and have photographic illustrations of, you know, scratch built parts that he did. He would explain how he did it. But anyway, this is really cool, and this is copyright 72, so I'm thinking this is a 1972 box. But that, I really like those. So the contents of the box itself, you have the hull sides, and again it's very basic, but it's not really too bad, especially considering the molds are from like 62. You got some pretty gnarly flash going on here. There's some decent rivet and bolt detail going on. You know, not bad considering the age. But again, this is a nostalgia. You know, look, the seam is pretty horrendous, but this is a perfect test bed or practice kit for, you know, perfecting, you know, seam line filling and, you know, painting and whatever. This is good, you know, good test bed for that kind of thing. But you got the whole parts. You've got all these, obviously the whole parts were attached to this. All the parts look to be pretty well in place. You know, the bogie assemblies are really simple. They're like these large chunks when they should be multiple wheels. The rudders are really thick. Then you got the other side here, which looks like basically the same stuff, but just like for the other side. Then you have like some of the bulkheads, more of the small parts, seat backs, antenna that looks more like a javelin, pretty thick. Monogram models made in USA. That's the floor pan right there, and it's nice and straight, it looks like. Sometimes, like when I built the Sherman Calliope, the Screaming Mimi by Monogram, the rocket launcher sections were kind of warped, but this, there's no warpage on this. Here's the back deck, engine deck, with molded on tools. Don't see that much nowadays. Then you see an instrument panel. You know, not too bad. Not, you know, in this whole kit. Here, there's a couple parts that fell off. Got one of the bogie assemblies there. This looks like a radio. Control levers. The exhaust cover. Supposed to be, you know, mesh. It's like some scribing on top of a solid piece of plastic. The front deck, you know, again, not too bad considering the age. Fire extinguisher, some thin wiring molded on there. Pretty heavy looking grab handle or tie down or something. And you got the figures and the fenders. Figures pretty crude. Pretty crude indeed, but you know, they are what they are. There's the driver. These are actually serviceable. I think I'll paint these guys up and install them because it is going to be like a, here's a guy, radio operator. Then you got the decals. Decals, they're going to be unusable. Totally yellowed. They're all cracked up. They're ancient of days, obviously. Instructions on the back on how to do it. But, you know, so I'll use some dry transfers instead of those. Windshield made out of like thin acetate, which is kind of nice. You know, at least it's kind of scale and it's really clear and there's no warpage since it is, you know, real thin. Guy with the Tommy gun there. Let's see, more radio equipment, more small parts. I'm not going to take those out. Then you have the tracks here. Those are pretty nice. They kind of link together like this, and from what I've heard, because of the age of these older kits like this, the tracks are usually, see, those don't look near long enough to fit around the bogies. They're short, really short from shrinking with age. One guy was actually able to put his in boiling water and stretch them out. I may just opt to you know, just sew them together, and there'll be a big gap, but it'll be up underneath the fender, so nobody's going to see it. And then what this is really cool is this science program wants to give you the Moon plus the exciting Red Baron hobby kit for 10 cents with trial membership. Red Baron 1971. This is Monogram Science Program or something. You can sign up and they'll send you stuff in the mail. Lunar Wall Chart, Red Baron Hobby Kit, Man in Space, current handbook at the members' low price of only $1. Another handbook about the moon. Some pretty cool stuff there. You don't see this stuff very often. So anyway, that's really it. Just wanted to show you real quick what I got in the mail today. This will be a nostalgia build, like I said. I'm not sure when I'm going to do it because I've got a lot of projects going. I may do this in conjunction with some other kits just to have more than one thing going. But I plan on really doing a Shep paint on this one and doing some scratch building and detailing and replacing of details and stuff like that. But it's just another one of those things that you know, will kind of break up the intensity of some of the other kits that I work on. So hope you enjoyed this video. Just a real quick walk down my memory lane. One of the things I always wanted as a kid, and now I finally got it, and I'll actually be able to, because back in the day I'd have built this in about an hour, been done with it, been playing on the bed with it, having battles. But this one I'll kind of do my best on it just to see what I can do to make it look decent. So anyway, that's it for this edition of Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I will see you all later.